Shalom, shalom, brother Abaya. First, we give all praise and glory to the Heavenly Father, which is Yahweh, by Hashem Yahawashi. Yahweh being the Heavenly Father, Yahawashi being the Son, who people ignorantly call him Jesus Christ. Lord willing, you enduring, you praying, you fasting, you giving alms, you doing everything you need to do to make your calling and election sure in these last days, right? So this is going to be a new installment, Milk Mondays, going over the milk, right? And Lord willing, that's edifying. Got any questions, feel free to tap my phone or, hit the email up. I'm always available to like-minded brothers, right, and sisters, right? So first, the question is, the topic today is, who is Yahawashi, man? Because you got a lot of, questions out there. Who is Yahawashi? Who is this man you speak of? Isn't his name Jesus, right? What's it called? That's not his name. His name is Yeshua and stuff like that. So let's clear up all the confusion. Who is Yahawashi? Right, but first, before we start with that, let's go all the way on how everything began. Right, but first I'm gonna get the book of Job, chapter 9, and verse 24, and it reads, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked." So first it reads, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked." Who runs the world right now? The economy, the military power, right? With politics, um, revenue, money, right? Anything, man. On a mass global scale, who runs the world? The so-called white man. He's the one who's printing out all this paper money, paper cash with their president on it. Now you got the Chinese man and all these other countries using it, going by the same way, right? Military might. Those are the ones who's dominating right now, right? Political game. Those are the ones who's dominating right now, and democracy, right? You even got America on the west and Russia all the way on the east. They run the whole world. If you want to go get a business loan, you have to go to them, right? If you had to go get your license, you have to go to them. Who owns the Walmart you go to? Who owns the Waffle House, McDonald's, Root Chris, right, and stuff like that? They all own these businesses because they run the world as we speak right now, right? So it says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, and if the so-called white man runs the world, he is the wicked. But that's not the point. So let's keep going, right? He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. So who is the chief judge? Is it Judge Matthias, something like that, right? What's her name? Judge Rudy. I don't know her name. No, that's not the chief judge. The chief judge is the Most High Yahweh, so-called God, and his son Yahweh Shah. Let me get a precept. So this is the book of Second Esdras out the Apocrypha. Second Esdras chapter 16 verse 67. Behold, God himself is the judge. So the Most High Yahweh God, he's himself is the judge, right? Fear him, leave off from your sins, forget your iniquities, to meddle no more with them forever. So shall God lead you forth and deliver you from all trouble. But the point is, it says God himself is the judge. Let's get another precept. It's the book of John, chapter 5, and verse 2. And it reads, I believe it's 22. Khan. John chapter 5 and verse 22. For the Father judgeth no man, but hath committed all judgment unto the Son. So the Most High, he took his judgment and gave it to the Most High. Slack to his son Yahawashi, so-called Jesus. Now Yahawashi, he's the chief ruler, right? So let's go back to Job 9 and 24. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. So what does it mean to cover the faces of the judges thereof? Meaning he changed the chief judge, Yahawashi, to making it look like he's a so-called white man. Because in the Bible, there's nowhere in the Bible where it says Jesus, so-called Jesus, is a so-called white man. Throughout the whole Bible, people in the Bible are so-called black men. Right? Moses, Joshua, David, Sons of Solomon. Solomon. Right? Yahawashi himself, Peter, Job, Jeremiah. All these people were so-called black men. They wasn't white men, right? Let me get a precept. So let's prove that Yahawashi, or so-called Jesus, was a so-called black man, an Israelite from the tribe of Judah. So this is the book of Revelation, chapter 1. I'll start at verse 1. The Rev, the Rev, the revelation or the revealing, right, of Jesus Christ, which is Yahawashi, right, of Yahawashi Hamashiach, which God gave unto him to shew unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass, and he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. So this is the revealing of Yahawashi, right? Verse 14. Let's jump down to verse 14, and it reads. I'll start verse 13, right? And it reads, in the midst of the seven candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. So this is the Son of Man. His head and his hairs were white like wool. So who got white woolly hair when they get old and stuff like that? If I took my braids out and I picked it out, it'd be kind of woolly. It has a woolly texture, right? As white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet. Now we go to his skin complexion. If you go to your feet, the feet is the same skin complexion as the rest of your body, right? And it reads, and his feet like unto fine brass. So what color is brass? Brass is brown, but that's not the point. That's the point right here. As if they burned in a furnace. So it says as if they burned in a furnace. So where did, what's it called? Where did this white man come from? Right, we're gonna break it down though. Alright? I'm gonna keep going though. And his voice as the sound of many waters. Meaning he was he was austere. He spoke boldly, spoke loudly. Right? But let's see now we gotta see how did the so-called white Jesus come into play. Because you gotta understand, man, that's not the real image of Jesus. So-called Jesus. Right? Let me get this real quick. Now, and this is why I like the Bible, man. The Bible goes into history. I hate when people say it's a fairy tale, it's a white man's book. They just don't understand the Bible. This Bible covers a lot of things. This Bible covers the Renaissance, the things we're about to go into. Right? So this is the book of Revelation. I'll start at verse 20. Revelation chapter 20 and verse 1. And it reads, and I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of the bottomless pit. And that bottomless pit is talking about a landmass. Let me get a precept to prove it. It's talking about a landmass, which is Europe, right? Because bottomless pit just means a landmass. So this is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 5 and verse 24. And it reads, and of all lands of the whole world, thou hast chosen thee one pit. So one pit. So that pit represents a landmass. That landmass in Revelation 20 is talking about Europe. That's where the so-called white man was ruling back then, in Europe. So-called Roman Empire. Around there. So this is Revelation 20 and verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on that dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Now that old serpent, the reason why it says old serpent, because it goes back to Genesis 3, chapter 3, right? It goes from the beginning of time. And when it says serpent, the serpent has what's it called? A meaning on it. Meaning deceiving, subtle, and stuff like that. Let me just get a precept. Alright? Because a white man, this talking about the white man right here. He got that. Let me just get a precept. I don't know how to explain it. Right? Let's try to get a precept real quick. But he's good with his words, basically. That's why it says in Matthew chapter 10 and verse 16, be ye therefore wise as a serpent, paraphrasing. Right? But this is the book of Psalms. Psalms 55 verse 21. So like it. And it reads. So this is the book of Psalms 55 and verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. So a serpent is subtle, right? It deceives you, right? It tells you the things you want to hear, right? On a carnal level, because a snake is crafty. It knows how to get the draw the prey to it. It knows how to maneuver around to get to the prey and stuff like that. It's crafty. Same thing as the so-called white man. He's crafty. He knows how to get you to sell out. He knows how to tell you the things you want to hear, right? He knows how to get you to snitch on your own brother when you about to go to prison. right? Yeah, I'll give you some Popeyes and some Chinese food, and I'll give you $10,000 if you tell me who did this and stuff like that. The next thing you know, the brother's ratting out his own brother, man, because they crafty. Their words are smoother. Slucky. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter. Let me get another precept. All right. This book of Matthew, chapter 10. I'm in the wrong book. It's the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 16. And it reads, Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So serpents are wise in their own way. They know how to maneuver, man. Right? That's why that's why the so-called white man in this thing is referred to as a serpent, because they know how to maneuver, both on the left hand side, of course. Right? Let's go back to this is the book of Revelation, chapter 20, and verse 2, and it reads, He laid hold on a dragon, the old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. And devil just means deceiver, and Satan just means adversary. It's a title put on this person, on the nation of people. Again, devil means deceiver, and Satan means adversary. It's not actually talking about a dragon, poking you with a pitchfork and stuff underground, man. These are just parables and dark sayings, right? You gotta understand when these prophets and stuff like that was writing, they're flowing through the spirit. It's like a poem, different type. It's poetic and stuff like that. You gotta break it down, right? So the devil means a deceiver, and Satan means adversary. And when it says and bound him 1,000 years, those were actually 1,000 years, right? 1,000 years, the so-called white man got out of power, and for 1,000 years during the so-called Dark Ages, the so-called Moors, which were Israelites, ruled for 1,000 years. That's where you had King James, right? That's where he started putting these Bibles together. For 1,000 years, the so-called Moors ruled. You can look it up yourself, right? But yes, this is exactly 1,000 years when the so-called white man lost his power, right? Verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him. Meaning he can't, his rulership was cast down. He wasn't ruling at the moment no more, right? That he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. Again, that's a literal 1,000 years, right? Look at the coat of arms. Coats of arms during the time of the Moors, so-called black people, Israelites. They ruled for 1,000 years, right? And after that, he must be loosed in little season. And after the 1,000 years, the so-called white man came back into power, right? But if you jump down to verse 7, that's the continuation of verse 3. So watch this. I'm going to read verse 3 again. I'm going to jump down to verse 7, right? And it reads, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. Verse 7. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. And again, Satan is not an actual dragon underground poking somebody with a pitchfork. Satan is just a title put on somebody. That's like me calling you the devil, because you over here being evil, being deceiving, right? Me calling you Satan, that's you being my adversary. That's exactly what Satan means, adversary, right? So it says Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, meaning he won't come back into rulership, right? Verse 8, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. And the four just means a completion, all around the earth, right? God had made God to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is at the center of the sea. And that's exactly what the so-called white man did. When he came back into power, he went to deceive many people. And how did he do that? The Renaissance. He had this time period called the iconoclasm. That's when he destroyed the ancient pictures on how the real so-called Jesus Christ looked like, a so-called black man. His real name is Yahawashi. I'm gonna start calling him Yahawashi from now on. That's when they destroyed Yahawashi pictures. They had pictures and paintings of King David. They had pictures of Solomon, right? They had pictures of Yahawashi, man. They had pictures of Paul, Peter. There was all so-called black men, right? It wasn't white. You really think so-called white man was over there in Egypt and stuff like that, just chilling over there? Well, it wasn't, man. It was all melanated people, right? But the point is, the main thing they did in the Renaissance was come out with the so-called white Jesus. Let me get that. And there's an account in the Bible. You can look it up in the 1611 Bible. There's an account on how they came up with it. Let me get to it. Actually, before I pull it out, let me get this. Look here. This book of Malachi, chapter 1. This book of Malachi, chapter 1. I think I'll start at verse 4. I'll start at verse 3, and it reads, "And I hated Esau." The Esau is the so-called white man. You can read about that in Genesis chapter 25 and verse 25. He came out red all over. Because the so-called white men, they're not white. They're different shades of red. That's why they turn red easily, especially in the sun or when they're embarrassed. They're not white, they're red. You can see their blood flow through them. But verse 3, "And I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness." Notice how Esau is compared to a dragon. Because again, it's all symbolic. It's a parable, a dark saying. You gotta understand, this Bible is poetic, man. Right? Verse 4, and it reads, "Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places." And that's exactly what they did with the Renaissance. They came back into power and started building the desolate places. Right? "Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever." But the point is, they came back into power. Now they're building, man. They've been building ever since. They're still building to this day, right? But the Lord's going to throw down. But the main point is, this is another verse you can use for the Renaissance. Everything in the Bible that happened, in the past, in the so-called history books, the Bible already covers that, right? But again, people don't understand that. They think it's a fairy tale book when it's not. It's a lot of history in the Bible, man. Especially Daniel chapter 7, Daniel 8, Daniel 9. Revelation. I'm just say Revelation, man. Matthew, Luke 21, Matthew 24, Mark 13, right? John chapter 16, chapter 1, John chapter 16, verse 1 to 2, right? It's a lot of history and prophecies that hasn't come to pass yet or that already came to pass, right? Like this one right here, it tells you how they came about with the so-called white Jesus. It tells you, right? So I'm going to get it real quick. Again, you can find this in the KJV 1611 Bible. But it's the book of Wisdom of Solomon, right? Chapter 14 and verse 15. And it reads, "For a father afflicted with untimely mourning." And that father is talking about Pope Alexander VI, right? The father of so-called Jesus, his real name is Caesar Borgia, right? And it reads, "When he hath made an image of his child, soon taken away." So he made an image of his child, which is so-called Jesus, as we know as Jesus today, Caesar Borgia, right? "Now honor him as a god." So people honor him as a god, man, right? They don't understand that this white man that people portray him as the son of God, he's really he raped his sister. He's a molester. He was a homosexual, right? He wasn't righteous at all, right? Let's keep going though. "Now honor him as a god, which was then a dead man, and delivered to those that were under him ceremony and sacrifices. Thus in process of time, an ungodly custom grown strong was kept as a law, and graven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings." So meaning if you didn't bow down to worship him, he was going to be put to death, right? The same way as the Jews in first Maccabees and second Maccabees, he didn't get down, or Daniel, he didn't get down with worshiping their God. They're going to put him to death. It's the same thing with this. If you didn't worship, Caesar Borgia or so-called Jesus, the white man, right, he was going to get put to death, right? That was another tactic to get us into slavery, right? Again, Jesus was a homosexual. You can look all this up. His name is Caesar Borgia. He was a homosexual. He raped his sister, right? He was a murderer, right? Homosexual, right? He was all these things, not righteous at all. And that's Wisdom of Solomon 14, 15, and 16, right? So, All the Bible covers all things. It's an actual account in the Bible. The Bible already spake about this thing, man. Right? So let me get another verse real quick. It's the book of Second Maccabees. Sloppy. First Maccabees, chapter 3, and verse 48. And it reads, and laid open the book of the law. So, right? Let's keep going. Wherein the heathen have sought to paint the likeness of their images. And that's exactly what happened. These heathen, the so-called white men, they opened the book of the law, they opened the Bible, and sought to paint the pictures on how Jesus, Yahawashi looked like. They paint him as how they look like. So, so Yahawashi, who was a black man, they paint him to be as a white man to look like themselves, right? Paul, they think they put Paul as a white man as well. Peter, Noah, they put all these so-called black men as white men to make it look like themselves. Let me read it again. Verse Maccabees 3 and 48. And lay open the book of the law, wherein the heathen has sought to paint the likeness of their images. So everything on all the people you see in the Bible, they made Jeremiah look just how they look like. But really, Jeremiah was a so-called black man, right? Probably darker than me, for real. Right. Come on, we can keep going, man. But the point is, the so-called white man is deceiving people, making it seem like that so-called Jesus Christ, that white dude, is the Son of God when it's not. And the Lord prophesied about this thing, man. All right. I'm gonna show you who Yahawashi really is. A lot of people don't know who Yahawashi really is, man. All right, but I'm gonna get this real quick. This is the book of Second Thessalonians, right? Chapter 2. I'll start verse 8, and it reads, and then shall the wicked be revealed. Who's the wicked being revealed? The so-called white man is being revealed. The wicked. He's the one who's pushing out this pedophilia. Now he said, you can do what you gotta do, with a child, just as long as they're in a 10-year range. You could be a 20-year-old popping a 10-year-old. It doesn't matter if it's a girl or boy. You can still pop them, just as long as they're 10 years in that 10-year range. He got this Wayfair, I believe it's called, the child trafficking. He's the wicked, man. He worships Satan. This is not the children. That's not the children of God, man. Just think about it. How come these white people, the so-called white man, he's the only nation of people with no melanin, right? Because he's the wicked, man. He's the devil, right? Don't forget what he did to our ancestors when we was in slavery, man. You actually got to think about these things. If you were so-called Hispanic watching this, look what they did to your people, man. You still got some of the kids, separated from the children. What's it called, in FEMA camps right now? Getting put to death just for their organs, right? What's it called? The ICE program and stuff like that. You got them being separated, taking their mom and dad back to so-called Mexico, right? Next thing you know, the child, he grows up homeless, because he can't work nowhere. He got no social security, right? These are the devils the Bible speaks of, man. You gotta open your eyes for real. Stop having that. What's it called? That God loves everybody's spirit, because Romans 9 and 13 tells you otherwise, man. The same way you got enemies, the Most High has enemies too. The Most High is a so-called black man. He's an austere. Look that word up, austere. He's serious, man. Strict in manner. He's not nice, right? But this is the book of Second Thessalonians. It's lucky. I want to say one more thing. Or sorry, I want to say one more thing. Just think about it. How come all these other nations, they only put the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans into slavery? Because they know that we're God's chosen people, right? But this is the book of Second Thessalonians, chapter 2 and verse 8. And then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. Right? And that's exactly who he is. The so-called white man is coming with the power of Satan, right? Working all lying powers and signs, man. That so-called white Jesus, that's a lie. Right? That's a lie. That was beat into us, to make us fear them, man. Right? When it's not. Right? When it's not, it's a lie. Verse 10. And with all deceivableness, again, deceive And devil goes hand in hand. Devil means to deceive. So really, it says with all devilness, right, or wherever you know what I'm talking about, right? Verse 10. With all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved, man. And that's talking about the so-called white man. This Bible has to be talking about somebody, man, right? And it's talking about the so-called white man. Verse 11. And it's not hate, it's the truth. Verse 11. And for this cause, God shall send them strong delusion that they should believe a lie. It's a strong delusion on our people, on everybody. You even got the East Indian person worshiping so-called Jesus, white Jesus, man. Right? It's a strong delusion, man. Everybody's under a delusion, thinking that the so-called white men are God's chosen people. Right? Thinking that the so-called white man, thinking that Jesus is the so-called white man. Right? Verse 12. That they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but have pleasure in unrighteousness. Right? So, hey, you're going to be damned, man, if you don't believe the truth. The truth is, your house is a so-called black man. Coming for the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. That's the truth. Right? Let me show you about Yahawashi now. I'm going to show you about Yahawashi. Now we just got done talking about that white so-called Jesus. Let's show you about who Yahawashi is. Yahawashi means he saves, savior. Yah means he, Yahawashi means savior, right? Yahweh, that's the name of the Most High God, right? Yah means he, Hawa means is, he is, right? It's not I am. When Moses went to Pharaoh, he said he is that he is. He didn't say I am that I am. He said he is that he is. And he is Yahweh, right? And his son is Yahawashi, who people ignorantly call Jesus Christ. Right? But let me prove everything though. Let me show you how Yahawashi looks like again, you know? And after this I'm gonna show you how the Father Yahweh looks like. Because all these things are documented in the Bible. But this is the book of Daniel, chapter 10 and verse 5. Then I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning. Meaning he was bold. You can tell his boldness. His face was probably scrunched up, not smiling, right? And his eyes as a lamp of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass. Meaning his skin was probably like this, but a little darker, right? And the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude, because again he spake boldly, man. Right? Again, I just showed you how Yahweh shall look, which is the Son. Now let's see how the Father looks like. Most High God, Yahweh. And his name is not God. God just means power, right? Let me keep going, bro. So this is the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 9. Now this goes into the complexion on how the Most High God, Yahweh looks like. And it reads, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. Now who's the Ancient of Days? The Most High God. Whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. Again, who got woolly hair? If your house is a so-called black man, that means his father is a so-called black man, right? So the Most High God Yahweh is a so-called black man because we're made in His image, right? So, hey, but now let's get some accounts on Yahweh behaved himself, man. Let's see how bold he was, man. Right? We can get to it. Let's go to John chapter 2 real quick. So this is the book of John, chapter 2. This is the book of John, chapter 2, and I'll start at verse 13. I'll start at verse 12, and it reads, and after this, he went down, like he is talking about Yahweh, went down to Capernaum, he and his mother, and his brethren, and his disciples, and they continued there not many days. And the Jews' Passover was at hand, and Yahawashi went up to Jerusalem, and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves, and the changers of money sitting, right? So, Yahushua went to in the temple. You got people doing all type of folly in the temple, right? Verse 15. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, and when you making something, so a scourge of small cords, you got, it's a cord, a whip with, sharp stuff on it. And when you're making something, you're going into this. You're meditating on how you're going to use it. I'm going to put this on here because when I hit them, I want the skin to come off when I take it off. Right? It's a sharp, it's cord, man. The same way that Yahawashi got beat and his skin came off, that's exactly what he was making. Right? So he made this scourge of small cords, right? Verse 15. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money and overthrew the table. So all hell broke loose. He went to the temple and started beating on people, man. Started going down on people, right? He wasn't playing around, right? Verse 16, and said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence. Man, take this crap, man. Make not my father's house and house of merchandise, straight like that. He started beating people and say, hey, take this crap out of here, man. Get the hell out of here. Yahawashi was a so-called OG, right? He was a so-called OG. Let's get another account real quick. Let me get that account. Let's get this real quick. Luke 13, right? Oh, yeah, I like this. This book of Luke 13, verse 31, and it reads, the same day there came certain of the Pharisees saying unto him, get thee out, depart hence, for Herod will kill thee. He said, hey, you gotta go, get out of here. You better get put to death by Herod, right? Let's see what Yahawashi said, man. Verse 32. And he said to them, go ye, hey, go ahead, and tell that fox. He said, tell that fox. That's like us saying, oh, go tell that B word, man, right? Go tell that nigga, right? He said, go tell that fox. Behold, I cast out devils, and I do cures today and tomorrow. And the third day I shall be perfected. Straight like that, man. You had people worried that he might get put to death. Yahawashi wasn't afraid. He wasn't moved, man. He said, go tell that fox, this, that, and the third. Straight like that. And he went back to saying something else. He wasn't scared. Because Yahawashi, man, people don't understand Yahawashi, man. He was like that. He was like that. Let's get the book of John, chapter 18, man. We'll get two more verses and close out. Because this book of John, chapter 18, I'll start verse 1, and it reads, when Yahushua had spoken these words, he went forth with his disciples over the brook Cedron, where was a garden, into the which he entered and his disciples, right? And Judas also, which betrayed him, knew the place, for Yahushua oft times resorted thither with his disciples. So this is about to go into the time of when Judas was about to betray Yahushua. Verse 3. Judas then, having received a band of men, and a band is a whole collection of people. A band is a whole thing of an army, man, right? A band of men and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees coming thither with lanterns and torches and weapons, right? So imagine somebody coming in your neighborhood, they march into your house, all you see is flashlights, you see lanterns, all hell breaking loose, it's not quiet, right? Let's see how Yahawashi, behaved himself, right? Verse 4. Yahawashi therefore, knowing all things that should come upon him. So Yahawashi, he already knew what time it was, right? Went forth and said unto them, whom seek ye? See, a lot of people will run away from that, but Yahawashi went up to them. Hey, who you looking for, man? Right? Who you looking for? Verse 5. They answered him, Yahawashi of Nazareth. Because they didn't know who Yahawashi really was, how he looked like. They just heard about him. So he said, who you looking for, right? They said, Yahawashi of Nazareth. Yahawashi said unto them, I am he. And Judas also, which betrayed him, still with them. Right? He said, I'm him, man. Right? Verse 6. As soon then as he had said unto them, I am he, they went backward and fell to the ground. And when he said, hey, I'm him, and they were like, oh, dang, man. Right? They didn't know that was Yahawashi. They didn't know how he looked. But right when he said, I'm him, they fell back, man. Right? So you best believe that he said that with authority. Hey, I'm him. Right? Verse 7. Then asked he them again, whom seek ye? Man, who you looking for, man? Stop wasting my time. And they said, Yahawashi of Nazareth. Verse 8, Yahawashi answered, I have told you that I am he. If therefore you seek me, let these go their way. But I told you I'm him. If you looking for me, let these go their way, man. That's how your house was getting down. Stop put. He basically said, stop playing all these games. I'm him. Go ahead and take me and let them go. Verse 9. That the same might be fulfilled which he spake of them, which thou gavest me, I have lost none. Right? I want to jump down to let me see. Let me see. Let's keep going. Yeah, verse 10. Hey, verse 10. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and smote the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus, man. Straight like that. So Yahawashi was rolling with some like hitters, man. The same in this modern day world right now. That's like him drawing a gun and shooting him in his ear. The same back then, but they had swords. Peter took his sword and smote him, man, and took off his right ear, man. Straight like that. No questions asked. But Yahushua kind of rebuked him. But again, Yahushua wasn't rolling with someone who was scared, man. He was rolling with bold people, with austere men, right? But Yahushua, he was a so-called black man. You know how they was getting down, man. I'm gonna get this last one real quick. It's the book of Luke, chapter 19, verse 27. And this is Yahushua speaking. But those my enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them before me. Straight like that. If you don't want your house to rule over you, man, he says, bring them hither and slay them before me. Because again, he's austere. He ain't no pushover. He's not a punk. He's not nice. All right, he's a so-called black man, an Israelite from the tribe of Judah, as Hebrews 7 and 14, right? Austere, so-called black man. His name is Yahushua, not Jesus. Lord willing, that was edifying. Again, it's a new installment. Milk Mondays, right? I want to give a call along Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah.